Hello, everyone. This is Dark Timelines, and you're watching What If Deku Was a Villain?
Chapter 1, Middle School Realization. Izuku Midoriya had always dreamed of becoming a hero. From a young age, he idolized All Might and believed that anyone, even someone like him without a quirk, could be a hero. However, as the years passed and his quirk failed to manifest, the harsh reality of his situation became clear. By the time he entered middle school, the stark contrast between himself and his classmates was undeniable. Despite his quirkless status, Izuku never stopped observing the heroes he admired. He carried a notebook everywhere, meticulously documenting the quirks and abilities of every hero he encountered, both in person and through media. His keen eye for detail and analytical mind allowed him to understand the strengths and weaknesses of various quirks. He noted how certain heroes utilized their quirks in combat, rescue operations, and day-to-day activities, understanding that raw power wasn't the only factor in heroism. Strategy and physical conditioning were equally crucial. Armed with this knowledge, Izuku decided he wouldn't let his lack of a quirk define his future. He began a rigorous training regimen to improve his physical strength, endurance, and agility. Every morning before school, he would go for long runs, and after school, he would work out in a makeshift gym he set up in his bedroom. He studied various forms of martial arts online, practicing moves late into the night. Each day, he pushed his limits a little further, determined to build a body capable of supporting his dream. However, Izuku's efforts did not go unnoticed by his peers. Katsuki Bakugo, his childhood friend turned tormentor, was particularly relentless. Bakugo, with his explosive quirk and natural talent, couldn't stand the idea of someone like Izuku, quirkless and supposedly powerless, aspiring to be a hero. He saw Izuku's determination as an affront, a challenge to his own superiority. The bullying was relentless and brutal. Bakugo's taunts echoed in the halls of the school, calling Izuku deku, a name meant to symbolize his worthlessness. He would often use his quirk to intimidate and physically harm Izuku, creating small explosions near him or burning his notebooks filled with hero analysis. Other students followed Bakugo's lead, shoving Izuku in the halls, mocking his aspirations, and even sabotaging his training equipment. At first, Izuku tried to ignore the bullying, focusing on his training and his dream. But the constant harassment began to take its toll. The emotional and psychological strain became heavier each day. He started to feel isolated, his once boundless optimism slowly eroding under the weight of his peers' cruelty. He couldn't understand why his desire to help others, to be a hero, was met with such hostility. In his darkest moments, Izuku questioned his worth and his dream. He wondered if perhaps everyone was right, if he really was just a quirkless nobody, destined to remain in the shadows. The pain of these thoughts cut deeper than any physical blow Bakugo could deliver. Despite the growing darkness, a small part of Izuku refused to give up. The lessons he learned from observing heroes remained with him. He clung to the belief that being a hero wasn't just about having a powerful quirk. It was about heart, determination, and the will to fight for justice. He drew strength from the stories of heroes who overcame great odds and reminded himself that his journey was far from over. Izuku's training intensified, driven by a mix of hope and desperation. He began to understand that his path would be different from others, marked by challenges and hardships that few could comprehend. But he also realized that his unique perspective, his quirkless existence, might one day become his greatest strength. Chapter 2, Retaliation. The endless taunts, the physical abuse, and the emotional torment finally reached a tipping point for Izuku Midoriya. It was a particularly harsh day when Bakugo had burned his latest notebook, laughing as the pages turned to ash. Something inside Izuku snapped. "Why don't you just give up, Deku? You're nothing but a quirkless loser," Bakugo sneered, sparks crackling from his palms. Izuku felt a surge of anger unlike anything he had ever experienced. Instead of backing down, he did something unexpected. He laughed, a cold, hollow sound that silenced the crowd around him. "Give up? You really think that's all it takes to break me?" Izuku's voice was steady, his eyes burning with a newfound intensity. Bakugo's sneer faltered for a moment, then turned into a furious snarl. "You little..." Before he could finish, Izuku moved. He charged at Bakugo with a speed and ferocity that took everyone by surprise. The first punch landed squarely on Bakugo's jaw, sending him stumbling backward. Bakugo recovered quickly, blasting a small explosion to regain his footing and counterattack. But Izuku was relentless. He dodged and weaved, his fists and feet striking with precision and power. The years of training had paid off. His body was a weapon, honed to perfection. Bakugo's explosions lit up the courtyard, but Izuku seemed to dance around them, landing blow after blow. The other students, initially shocked, began to cheer for Bakugo, urging him to fight back. When some tried to intervene, Izuku turned on them, his rage indiscriminate. Teachers arrived, trying to restore order, but Izuku saw them as part of the problem, a system that had allowed his suffering to continue unchecked. The commotion drew the attention of a nearby hero, Aquajet. Known for his quirk that allowed him to shoot highly pressurized water from his palms, Aquajet was a respected local hero. He arrived on the scene, quickly assessing the chaos. "Enough!" Aquajet's voice boomed over the noise. He raised his hands, aiming at Izuku. "Stand down, kid. This ends now." But Izuku, lost in his fury, charged at Aquajet. The hero responded by firing a powerful jet of water, hitting Izuku squarely in the chest and sending him sprawling. The battle with Aquajet, Izuku staggered to his feet, his clothes drenched and clinging to his body. His eyes locked onto Aquajet, filled with a blend of rage and desperation. "You don't understand," Izuku spat, his voice raw. "None of you understand." Aquajet fired again, but this time Izuku was ready. He dodged to the side, closing the distance between them. Aquajet's movements were calculated and precise. Each jet of water was a potential knockout blow, but Izuku's agility and determination kept him in the fight. He feinted to the left, drawing Aquajet's attack, then rolled to the right, coming up close and delivering a powerful uppercut to Aquajet's jaw. The hero stumbled back, stunned. Izuku followed up with a series of rapid punches, each fueled by years of suppressed anger and frustration. Aquajet retaliated with a powerful blast of water from both palms, but Izuku managed to twist away, grabbing one of the hero's wrists and twisting it sharply. Aquajet cried out in pain, the water jets faltering. Izuku didn't stop. He delivered a vicious knee strike to Aquajet's midsection, followed by a brutal elbow to the back of the hero's head. Aquajet, disoriented and in pain, tried to push Izuku away, but the quirkless boy was relentless. In a final act of desperation, Aquajet fired another blast, but Izuku sidestepped it, grabbing the hero by the throat and slamming him to the ground. The world seemed to slow as Izuku raised his fist, eyes wild with fury. He brought it down with all his might, again and again, until Aquajet's struggles ceased. Blood mixed with water on the ground, creating a gruesome scene. Izuku's breathing was heavy, his knuckles bruised and bloodied. The reality of what he had done began to sink in. The crowd was silent, staring in horror. Izuku looked around, seeing the fear and shock in their eyes. He realized that in his quest for justice, he had crossed a line he could never uncross. As the sirens of approaching police and other heroes filled the air, Izuku stood, shaking. The weight of his actions pressed down on him like a physical force. He knew there was no turning back. He had become the very thing he had fought against, an outcast, a villain in the eyes of society. Sprinted through the rain-soaked streets, his mind racing as fast as his feet. The sirens of approaching police vehicles grew louder behind him, a constant reminder of the chaos he had left in his wake. The confrontation with Aquajet had not only resulted in a public spectacle, but had also marked him as a fugitive. The streets were alive with flashing lights and the distant shouts of officers calling for his capture. His breath came in ragged gasps, his drenched clothes clinging to him, making every movement more cumbersome. He darted through alleyways and back streets, trying to evade the searchlights and patrols closing in on him. The weight of his actions bore down on him heavily, his earlier rage replaced by a profound sense of dread and regret. The media coverage of the incident was relentless. News outlets ran continuous stories about the dangerous quirkless boy who had killed a hero. The headlines blared across screens and newspapers, each one painting Izuku as a monster. The footage of the fight, though edited to highlight his aggression, only served to further vilify him. In the midst of this media storm, Izuku Midoriya, Izuku's mother, found herself under intense scrutiny. Reporters camped outside her home, bombarding her with questions and accusations. They sought to understand why her son had turned to violence, and their probing only fueled public outrage. Inko, overwhelmed by the constant barrage of questions and the cruel scrutiny from society, sank into a deep despair. The relentless media coverage not only shattered her privacy, but also turned her into a symbol of failure, a mother of a villain. The pressure was unbearable, and the guilt of not being able to protect or understand her son weighed heavily on her. The breaking point came one evening when, after a particularly aggressive round of questioning by reporters, Inko was found in her home having taken her own life. The news of her death added another layer of tragedy to the unfolding drama. The media coverage of her passing was similarly invasive, further exploiting her grief for sensationalism. When Izuku finally found a moment of solace hidden away in a deserted warehouse, he learned of his mother's death through a news broadcast on a stolen phone. The devastating news hit him with the force of a wrecking ball. The guilt and sorrow over her death mixed with the anger he felt towards a society that had driven her to such a desperate act. The realization that society had not only rejected him, but had also indirectly contributed to his mother's death, crystallized a new resolve in him. The systems that were supposed to protect and uplift individuals had instead turned against him, vilifying and abandoning him in his moment of need. Izuku's grief and anger led him to a profound change. No longer just a boy driven by the dream of heroism, he became disillusioned with the very ideals he once admired. His experiences had convinced him that society was flawed and cruel, and the path of heroism was nothing more than a facade for the powerful to control the weak. He adopted the identity of Wraith, a symbol of his new beliefs. As Wraith, he operated in the shadows, using his skills to challenge those he saw as corrupt or unjust. Izuku Midoriya, now operating under the alias Wraith, had transformed himself from a hunted fugitive into a formidable and feared figure in the underworld. His new identity was both a shield and a weapon, his costume designed to embody his name and his mission. Wraith's attire was both functional and symbolic. His costume was a dark, sleek ensemble, primarily gray to blend into the shadows. A high-collared cloak with a deep hood concealed his face, leaving only a featureless mask visible. The mask, a stark white with narrow dark eye slits, was meant to instill fear and anonymity. A sword, sharp and deadly, was sheathed across his back, always ready for use. His entire appearance was crafted to evoke the image of a ghostly specter, a being who struck from the shadows and left no trace. As Wraith, Izuku became a hired killer, taking on contracts from various sources. His clients ranged from distraught fathers seeking vengeance to individuals with personal vendettas. Each contract was executed with cold precision, his actions driven by a twisted sense of justice and retribution. He had built a reputation for completing his tasks with ruthless efficiency. The first few involved distressed fathers or relatives seeking justice for the spouse's injustice, revolving around murder, harassment, and others. First, he was nothing but a name, but over time his deeds grew. He didn't discriminate between the wealthy or the poor, hero or villain or civilian. When Izuku Midoriya first adopted the mantle of Wraith, his arsenal was simple, a single, sharp sword. The sword was not just a weapon, but a symbol of his determination to fight back against a world that had rejected him. However, as he delved deeper into the underworld and faced increasingly challenging adversaries, he realized the need for more sophisticated gear to enhance his effectiveness. In the beginning, Wraith's reliance on his sword was absolute. His training in martial arts and swordsmanship had made him proficient, allowing him to take down opponents with precision and agility. His early encounters were marked by close-quarters combat, where his speed and skill with the blade gave him a distinct advantage. The cloak he wore was primarily for concealment, helping him blend into the shadows and strike with surprise. Wraith quickly learned that relying solely on a sword had its limitations, especially when facing opponents with powerful quirks or advanced technology. He began to study and adapt, using his keen observational skills to learn from each encounter. He started to incorporate new tools and weapons into his arsenal, each addition carefully chosen to complement his fighting style. Number 1. Throwing knives. To extend his reach and attack from a distance, Wraith added a set of throwing knives to his gear. These knives were lightweight, balanced for both throwing and close combat, and coated with a substance to prevent them from slipping in wet or bloody conditions. 2. Smoke bombs and flashbangs. Understanding the importance of creating diversions and disorienting his enemies, Wraith incorporated smoke bombs and flashbangs into his arsenal. These tools allowed him to escape tight situations, create confusion, and gain a tactical advantage. 3. Grappling hook. To enhance his mobility and access difficult-to-reach areas, Wraith adopted a grappling hook. This device enabled him to scale walls, swing between buildings, and quickly move across the battlefield, making him a more elusive and versatile combatant. 4. Body armor. Recognizing the need for protection, Wraith upgraded his cloak with lightweight, flexible body armor. The armor was designed to absorb impacts and deflect minor attacks while maintaining his agility and stealth. It also provided additional pockets and compartments for his expanding array of gadgets. 5. Tactical cloak. His cloak evolved into a tactical garment with built-in technology. It included thermal regulation to keep him comfortable in various environments, and material that could dampen sound, making his movements even quieter. The cloak's fabric was also resistant to tears and burns, offering added durability. The most significant addition to Wraith's gear was his mask. Initially, it was a simple covering to hide his identity, but it soon became much more. The mask was upgraded to include night vision and thermal imaging, allowing Wraith to see in complete darkness and detect hidden enemies. It also had a voice modulator to disguise his voice and an integrated communication system for eavesdropping on enemy transmission. With each new addition to his gear, Wraith spent countless hours training to master their use. He combined his existing skills with the new tools, creating a seamless integration of swordsmanship, stealth, and technology. His combat style evolved to incorporate a blend of traditional and modern techniques, making him a versatile and unpredictable opponent. One particularly notable contract involved taking down a corrupt business executive who had ruined countless lives with his unethical practices. The executive, protected by private security and surrounded by high-tech fences, proved to be a challenging target. Wraith infiltrated the heavily guarded estate, using his agility and stealth to neutralize the security personnel. The estate was a fortress, equipped with state-of-the-art security systems. Wraith's infiltration was meticulous. He avoided the laser sensors and disabled the alarms with expert precision. As he approached the executive's private office, he was met by a squad of elite guards. Wraith's movements were a blur of gray and shadow as he engaged the guards. He drew his sword with a swift, practiced motion, the blade flashing in the dim light. His strikes were precise and deadly, targeting vital points to incapacitate the guards without causing unnecessary bloodshed. Each movement was calculated, his combat style a blend of martial arts and swordplay. The final confrontation occurred in the executive's opulent office. The executive, a middle-aged man with a pompous demeanor, cowered behind his desk as Wraith approached. With a single decisive move, Wraith ended the corrupt executive's life, fulfilling the contract's grim requirements. Wraith's reputation grew as word of his deeds spread. The saying, "Neither in heaven nor hell shall his target get refused," became a common refrain among those who spoke of him. It reflected his unyielding commitment to his contracts and his ability to evade capture despite the relentless efforts of law enforcement and heroes alike. Yet he had a moral compass. He would only kill those who had wronged others and would never kill a child or leave one orphaned. This was his version of justice. Wraith, now a shadowy figure of fear, approached the high-security facility where his target was hiding. The mission was to eliminate a high-profile criminal taken refuge behind fortified walls, and this time, Wraith faced a significant challenge. Eraserhead, one of the top heroes known for his ability to nullify quirks. The night was dark and foggy, providing ample cover as Wraith stealthily infiltrated the facility. The security systems, though advanced, were no match for his skills. He moved silently, his gray cloak blending into the shadows. As he approached the target's location, Eraserhead, already aware of the potential threat, was ready. The hero's presence was palpable, his sharp eyes scanning the darkened corridors for any sign of the intruder. When Wraith made his move, Eraserhead's quirk activated instantly, aiming to neutralize any offensive capabilities Wraith might possess. However, Wraith, being quirkless, was unaffected by Eraserhead's power. The initial moments of the fight were a clash of shadows and steel. Eraserhead was a master of combat, his reflexes honed from years of hero work. He moved with precision, using his quirk to nullify any quirks he suspected might be at play and attempting to disarm Wraith. Wraith, however, was a relentless and skilled fighter, evading Eraserhead's attacks with fluid grace. Wraith's sword gleamed in the dim light as he parried Eraserhead's blows, each strike and counterstrike a testament to his rigorous training. The two combatants exchanged blows, the sounds of their clash echoing through the darkened hallways. Despite his quirkless status, Wraith's agility and combat prowess made him a formidable opponent. He managed to get close enough to land a decisive blow. With a swift, calculated movement, Wraith aimed his sword at Eraserhead's eye. The blade skimmed dangerously close but narrowly missed it, slicing through the hero's brow and leaving a deep cut. The near miss with the blade caused Eraserhead to retreat, his focus momentarily diverted from the target. The wound on his forehead was painful, and he needed to regroup and reassess his strategy. Wraith, seizing the opportunity, pressed forward. Eraserhead, realizing that he could not afford to let Wraith inflict further harm, made the tactical decision to fall back. He left the remaining security personnel to fend for themselves, prioritizing his own recovery and the safety of others over continuing the fight. With Eraserhead retreating, Wraith moved swiftly to complete his mission. He located his target, who had been left vulnerable without the protection of the hero. Wraith's approach was methodical and efficient. In the chaos of the facility and the aftermath of the confrontation with Eraserhead, the target was caught off guard and swiftly eliminated. As the mission concluded, Wraith vanished into the night, leaving behind the scene of chaos. The facility was left in disarray, the hero wounded, and the target dealt with according to the terms of his contract. In the aftermath, Wraith's reputation as a ghostly avenger was solidified by this encounter. His ability to evade even the most skilled heroes and complete his contracts without fail added to the mythos surrounding him. The saying, "Neither in heaven nor hell shall his target get refused," became more than just words. It was a testament to his relentless pursuit of his own brand of justice. Wraith's encounter with Eraserhead was a testament to his growing skill and adaptability. Despite being hunted by the law and targeted by heroes, he continued to operate from the shadows, driven by his own sense of justice and retribution. His legend grew, a dark figure who defied the norms of society and challenged the very fabric of heroism, but most importantly, he did this without using his quirk, with the speculation over it growing more interest. Wraith's journey from a lone swordsman to a fully equipped assassin was marked by continuous learning and adaptation. Each piece of gear added to his arsenal was a response to the challenges he faced, making him a more formidable and elusive figure. His transformation reflected his inner resolve and his commitment to surviving in a world that had turned against him. As Wraith, he became not just a symbol of fear, but a testament to the power of resilience and ingenuity. 5. Crossroads. 10 months before the entrance exam for UA High School, Izuku Midoriya, now known as Wraith, took on a contract to eliminate a particularly troublesome villain, the Sludge Villain. This assignment was different from his usual hits, requiring a delicate balance of stealth and cunning. The Sludge Villain was notorious for his ability to engulf and suffocate his victims, making him a dangerous target. Dressed in his civilian clothes to avoid suspicion, Wraith scouted the Sludge Villain's usual haunts. He observed the villain's patterns and identified an isolated area where he could spring his trap. Using a combination of street smarts and patience, he baited the Sludge Villain out into the open. Wraith's plan was meticulous. He carried a concealed container of liquid nitrogen, an unconventional weapon he had acquired through his connections in the black market. As the Sludge Villain approached, sensing easy prey, Wraith sprang into action. He unleashed the liquid nitrogen, freezing the villain almost instantly. The Sludge Villain, unable to react in time, was rendered immobile, his liquid form solidified into a brittle, icy prison. As Wraith stepped back to admire his handiwork, a gust of wind signaled the arrival of a hero. All Might, the symbol of peace, landed with his usual grandiosity, ready to subdue the villain. The sight of the legendary hero brought back memories of Izuku's childhood dreams, dreams that had long since been twisted and buried under layers of resentment and rage. All Might quickly assessed the situation, his eyes narrowing as he noticed the frozen villain and the young man standing nearby. "Did you do this?" All Might asked, his voice booming with authority. Wraith nodded, his admiration for All Might undiminished despite his new path. "Yes, I did. I wanted to ask you something, All Might." All Might's curiosity was piqued. "What is it, young man?" Wraith took a deep breath, his resolve firm. "What do you think of quirkless people? Can they be heroes? Can they contribute to society?" All Might, not recognizing Wraith as the quirkless boy who once idolized him, answered without hesitation. "Quirkless people, they face many challenges. It's difficult for them to compete in a world where power is everything. They can contribute in their own ways, but becoming a hero is nearly impossible without a quirk. Society has its expectations." The words hit Wraith like a punch to the gut. All Might's response confirmed what he had feared all along. In the eyes of society, he would always be seen as less, as someone who couldn't rise to the same heights as those with quirks. The last remnants of his childhood hero worship shattered. All Might's words solidified Wraith's resolve. Any lingering hope he had of finding acceptance in society vanished. He would no longer strive to be a part of a world that had no place for him. His path as Wraith, the feared assassin, was now clearer than ever. The little heroic side of him, the part that once believed in justice and heroism, was extinguished. As All Might prepared to take the frozen sludge villain into custody, Wraith disappeared into the shadows, leaving no trace behind. The encounter had marked a turning point in his life. From that moment on, he fully embraced his villainous persona. Wraith's name began to spread not just in Japan, but across the world. His reputation as an assassin who could take down even the most powerful villains and heroes grew with each successful contract. He became a symbol of fear and a reminder of the dark underbelly of a society obsessed with quirks and power. Wraith's methods became more refined and his gear more sophisticated. He continued to take on high-profile contracts, his actions always precise and calculated. The saying, "Neither in heaven nor hell shall his target get refused," became synonymous with his name, a testament to his unyielding commitment to his dark mission. With each passing day, Wraith's legend grew. He was no longer just a figure in the shadows, but a force to be reckoned with. A symbol of what happens when society's outcasts turn against it. The crossroads he had faced had led him down a path of infamy, and there was no turning back.
Thanks for tuning in to Dark Timelines. If you enjoyed exploring what if Deku was a villain, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more alternate universe scenarios. Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and keep imagining the possibilities.